Hello, everyone. It's been a while. How's everyone doing today? Bingo. Yeah, Paul, thanks for asking. So, yeah, it's been good. I've been busy. I mean, kind of sound like a broken record when I say that, right? But, Nacho, our little dog, was a bit sick over the last couple of days, so it's been very chaotic. Everything's fine now, though. Like, he's getting better. But, yeah, he was a little bit sick over the last couple of days, so missed out on some sleep, and then trying to keep doing what I normally do, you know? I've been doing a lot of work on the course that we've been planning for Beyond Extent. So I just did like another major reshuffle, like I guess you could say it as like an optimization pass. So instead of like 12 lessons, we have 10 now, and they're more condensed and longer. That makes it so that potentially we can do more a year in like a classroom type of setting, if we ever get to it, you know, or once we get to it. Other than that, I've been writing, like I've been trying something new recently. So during the day, I'll spend most of my time working on the course, and in the evenings I'll switch it over and I'll start writing some documentation. Like I'm working on like an article series on how to get into games, you know? So that goes from like how to present yourself, what an interview is like, what like where to find a job, how to find a job, how to present yourself, like basically everything that's not like regularly discussed, I would say. So yeah, I've been kind of trying to do it in that way, like trying to divvy up my time. Like I got a little tablet, so in the evenings I'll just chill out in the sofa with some good music and just type away. But yeah, thanks for asking. Hey Sia! Hey Kiriakos! I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing? How are you both doing? Paul saying that's good to hear. Yeah, if you're ever in a position where you're not busy, we're going wrong somewhere. Yeah. I think, I don't know. Like, I don't want to describe myself as a workaholic, but I like to keep busy, you know? Like I'm so excited about like everything that's coming up and like all the stuff that's going on, so I'm not that great at sitting still. Vibes today. Oh shit. Vibing. It actually kind of sucked that we couldn't really, or like I couldn't really like fully get into when we were playing Deep Rock Galactic like a couple of days ago. Because yeah, stuff that I mentioned before with Nacho kind of took up more of my time, but hey, we can still play that at a later date. I think we got a next one scheduled anyway, right? When is that one happening? 9th of October. Another game night. Sounds good. Kiriakos is doing great. That's great to hear. It feels like it's been a while since we did one of these, you know? It's kind of weird that they're only happening once a month. Well, I mean, for like portfolio reviews, it kind of makes sense for me at least. Like I feel like, I don't know, there's like I want to stream more, but then yeah. Currently not doing art really, you know? So it's, I'm not gonna just stream me typing away for like a couple of hours in the evening. It's not gonna work. Let's see. We've fully set up here then. Sweet. Pen is working. Oh. So, okay. I didn't know that you could do that. You can move a page with a mouse or like with a pen. Is this what it means? Like getting older? This is how I disconnect from like technology in general. Oh my god, I've been doing this stupid thing wherever I want to move, I'll switch to my mouse and like I'll scroll and then I'll do stuff on the screen with my pen. Oh. Okay. Well, the more you know. So yeah, how's everyone in the chat doing? How was everyone's day? Did everyone get up to something productive? Making some cool art? Or just work, you know? It's found too. We're gonna start out in a little bit with Peter's portfolio. Oh my god. I don't know, can I even show this? We were kind of doing like some cleaning up over the weekend as well, and I found like my old leaving cards from like the previous companies. Wait, which one is this? Okay, yeah, so I mean, you're not gonna read this. I'm not gonna bother, but like I found my old leaving cards that I kept with me at some point. These are both from Frontier. I should hang them up somewhere, you know? Top of the morning! Oh, is this when I turn into Jacksepticeye? But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weirdly nostalgic, you know? Like looking at these like leaving letters. Hey everyone! How's everyone doing? Browsing on the internet with a pen feels strange. I have to agree. I mean, look, you're talking to a person who just figured out that it exists, you know? So, I mean, don't take any credit from what I'm saying. I don't know, maybe on a tablet, you know? On a tablet it works a little bit better. Yeah, sitting in front of your monitors and then doing it on like a drawing tablet. It's kind of weird. So Paul is teaching at the uni again, doing more research on the lab, the same old. Going to just put my head down and getting it done at some point. Awesome. Well, we're gonna be talking about your portfolio in like a little bit, right? So maybe some stuff will come out of that too. Hi, Drizzy. Hi, George. Awesome to see so many people in here. It's amazing. All right, let's kick it off. Enough introductions. Where's my post-it, like my guiding post-it? Oh, there it is. All right, so the first portfolio we're going to be looking at today is from Peter Sedovic. I'm sorry if I pronounced that completely wrong. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But let's start with first impressions, you know? I like the banner. I'm obviously super biased at the moment because I'm creating a medieval town myself as well. So, first things first. But I like it, you know? Like it shows you like, hey, look, I'm like an environment artist. That's what I do. That's what I am about. Like it's coming straight at you, you know? The message is right there. So I like that. And again, not necessarily because it's an environment artist position, but just saying that, hey, this is what I do, this is what I'm about. Then let's have a look at your title, right? That's usually where I start. So we already kind of talked about it a little bit. 3D environment artist. That's good. Some people try to go a bit more generous, you know? Like they try to put like a lot of stuff in there when it's not necessarily. 3D environment artist. Clean. That's good. And then let's have a look at some of the portfolio work here. So I already did some snooping, so I know that these, well, I assume actually that these two pieces here. So this one, oh, where are we at? Hey, what's happening? Yeah. Oh, that's weird. Oh no, I completely broke my pen. No! What's happening? Oh, okay. Never mind. So yeah, these two are probably from this one, I'm assuming. Because they got the same kind of style, medieval buildings, you know? So I'm assuming that those two are from that one piece. I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into this, you know, because I'm curious about the substance of these two posts. So like post 1 and 2. Because maybe there's a way that you can just combine them into like one breakdown, right? Like what I'm trying to already in my head right now, what I'm trying to think about is that, okay, are you just trying to stretch your portfolio a little bit? Or are you just, or is there actually like a lot of substance in this? But we'll find out in a little bit. Actually, yeah. It's a solid amount of your portfolio already, right? Like I like what's going on. I like all the environments, of course, because like the thumbnail like really sells it. Not too sure about what's happening in these thumbnails. Yeah. I'm just not sure. Like maybe it's the color or something. It's very, I don't know. Almost kind of weirdly enough like too aggressive, you know? Like red is usually like a very kind of aggressive color, so maybe taking like a different, more muted color could work for that. That's what my gut tells me anyway. Yeah, let's have a look at the thumbnails then. I like this thumbnail for what it is, but I think just by looking at the thumbnail, right? Like I think you can find like a better position to take a thumbnail from. But we'll see more of that once we dive into it. Like I said, this thumbnail is good. It has some mystery built into it, you know, that this one's good as well. With thumbnails. Yeah, you kind of want to hint at something, you know, but you don't want to give away everything, at least in my opinion. Even though in this one you're doing that, but it's just such a nice frame that it just works by itself, right? So that's pretty good. That brings me to this one where, hold on, let's just have a look into it. So the school furniture, right? Those are the assets from this school, right? Okay. So what I would do in this case, this is already an example of like too many clicks for something that could be really condensed, right? Like a portfolio is never about like the amount of stuff that's on it. It's about the quality of stuff that's on it. So in this case, what you could do is just add these two breakdowns that you have here, just add them in there, you know? Maybe you can do something more interesting where instead of like the red background, you actually have like the school floor in there still, right? Maybe not as a cutoff, but like the complete thing. But it's just, it's a bit of a cleaner presentation with something that grounds the prop instead of just like, oh, it's floating in like this gradient in the background. I keep bringing up the same example again and again. Hannah Watts' work is very good when you want to look at that. It can just be like a clean like surface at the bottom, and maybe some, I don't know, some damage on it. Like, it doesn't need much, but it presents better than just like a prop floating. And saying that, also watch out with contrast here, right? Because these legs, they're going into the realm of like, I don't know where the leg starts and where the background begins. And that's very important, you know? Because if you show something off, like I kind of want to see like all the edges, all the silhouettes, and I kind of want to do like my own internal breakdown of it. So keep that in mind, that it's very, you're showing off the props, right? Like in a decent way, but you gotta do it just by showing everything of it, especially in a breakdown. But what I was saying before is that these 4 pictures, let me see. Okay, these 3 pictures, they're very good, right? But they're very good, but they can easily be added onto the other one. So maybe even condensed even more, right? Where what I mean with condensing is that you could have one angle with the wireframe, and then from another camera point, so let's say like there's like a camera to the back of this, right? And it's kind of watching this. That would be the view that's going to be here, and that would be like the second point. So number 1 is with a wireframe, and then second one is no wireframe. I honestly wouldn't even bother with grayscale at this point. Hold on, let me make sure. In this case, I wouldn't bother with grayscale because the prop itself is already pretty clean, right? So you're not really getting that much from the grayscale. But if that's a personal thing that you want to do, you can still do that, right? All I'm saying is that this can easily be like condensed and compacted into something that still shows off like everything that you're doing here, which is good, right? The wireframe, the isolated views of everything. Just think about the presentation a bit more and add it to your original scene. Because then I'm scrolling through the whole thing, right? So let me go back. So I click on this because, again, think about the thumbnail too, right? Like, this is way more inviting than this. Like, I look at this thumbnail and I've seen everything already. So I'm more likely to click on this one. And then if you show me all of this, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Looks nice, you know? Like, there's a nice amount of details. There's some good texture work going on. And then at the bottom, you just have like 1 or 2 pictures that break down just some of the assets that are being used. That's perfect. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Antonio. Hey, Gav. Don't be running off into Bake Off. Don't be running into Bake Off, Tim. I'll try. No promises. So yeah, that was like the little adventure into that specific piece, right? And that's why I think that the 3 are doing the same thing, but I'm not sure. So, and it might also be more justified in this one, right? So let's have a look first. Everything is made from scratch based on sketches found online. Cool. Cairo! Hey buddy, how are you doing? These are some cool houses though. I like the shapes. Some interesting shapes going on for sure. Cool, so let's have a look at the other one. Hello? It's probably an issue with my internet though. Oh, wait, no. There we go. Okay, so these are like, yeah, like production type buildings then, right? That's cool. So they kind of use the same kind of style, which you would expect anyway. Very cool. Interesting shape on this one. Is that the tavern? Yeah. It's cool. Got a little balcony in the back. I mean, I like this kind of stuff, you know? Like this is pretty interesting to look at. I mean, again, might be a little bit biased, but even then, you know, like I like this kind of stuff. I like the presentation, how you... What I like about it the most is that you've made use of the assets that were already there, you know? Like reusing is, I mean, it's the name of the game, you know? So showing that off is really good. I do have some comments, but I think I'm gonna jump over to the main scene for this instead, just to really give some feedback on that. All right. So I want to first start with the houses because that's where we kind of started off, you know. It is nice. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening with the silhouette on some of the buildings. Hold on, I'm trying to find a good picture where I can point it out. Let's see here. So this edge right here, like where you have, I'll draw it out, where you kind of have like a broken up silhouette happening, you know? That stuff does amazing for the silhouette. And I can see that you try to do that. I would want you to push it even further on these buildings, you know? Because that same kind of stuff also happens on like the edges, where you can do it slightly, kind of like exaggerate like all the silhouette parts, you know, like make it stand out a little bit. And then have some stuff like maybe pick like individual tiles, right? Because they're all modeled out anyway. You have a lot of control over the geometry, and like really making the most of that geo is very important, where you can do a lot with just like slightly rotating like one of the tiles, or like slightly lifting up like one of them, you know, that one of them is coming out. And you can do the same kind of thing with the edges of your buildings too. Like if, again, think about silhouette, right? Like just add a little bit of character to it. Same for all these beams that go through the center, right? Add a little bit of character. Like that's you do a very good job at like this edge, right? But you have to kind of push that into like everything, especially with like a medieval building style. Like everything was made by hand, right? Like everything was made by artisans, and like people just working on the stuff themselves. So you're gonna see some crookedness into it, which also benefits us, you know, because you can kind of skew it and like kind of bend it in ways where it's very forgiving to the eye because it looks so natural as it's, yeah, as it looks like medieval build. And you can kind of apply that on like a lot of stuff in your scene. Where on the rooftops as well, let's take this one, you know, like you would probably have a little bit of sag. It would probably be, because you kind of have to think about the structure of how they build up this stuff, right? I go really deep into this with my personal scenes, so I don't want to go all the way there, but I can imagine that if they have like a chimney, that chimney is supported by a frame, like a wooden frame holding it in place somehow, right? That means that the sag is not going to happen like all the way across, but it's going to happen in a part that isn't supported by that frame. Because there's going to be like a frame here, and there's obviously still going to be like some sort of frame here, but it's not going to be like the main support beams that are going to be there. I try to approach it in like a very logical way, right? Like if I built this stuff myself, like how and where would the damage be? How would the roof like sag over ages? And this is all stuff that you can find in references too, right? Yeah, so main point to take away here is add character. It's okay to add more polys as well if you want to add a character to something like this. No characters, add character. Because like in these shots, like it's all kind of like you're kind of far away from it, relatively far away. But you can do a lot with that. Now we're gonna zoom out a little bit. And we're gonna look at the scene in general, because I really love it, you know? Like, I don't think this is the strongest shot, but like looking at the scene in general, like it has so many good elements. I love the puddles here where it blends into the mud. You got all the bright flames. They're kind of at the same density, like at the same strength, you know, so it kind of feels a little bit repetitive, but what they do bring is like a contrast in the light, you know, like it's very striking to have like a relatively dark scene and then have these torches like light up like a lot of the scene. Looks so good. Puddles look really nice as well. I like this view. Kind of has some good stuff going for it, you know? Like where you kind of zoom down on it. What I would say, again, about this first shot that I wanted to address as well, is there's a lot of cobblestone happening. In medieval times, they definitely had cobblestone, right? But they would use it more sparingly. So what you would almost see is like maybe there's like a cobblestone like central road, you know? Cobblestone, and then as soon as it goes into buildings, there might be, I don't even think that there's gonna be cobblestone there. It's just gonna be the main road, and then everything outside of the main road is just gonna be dirt, you know? So you're gonna have like an interesting blend of like cobblestone that's like a little bit more scattered, and that goes into dirt then, which I think you kind of got some of that stuff going on. It's very tricky to see. So I think there is some stuff happening here, right? And that also brings me to like the other thing that I wanted to say. Like, it's raining, right? Which looks freaking awesome. However, it's pushing all the roughness values to the same point. So it makes it very hard to distinguish like where the cobblestone ends and where the sand or like dirt starts. So what I would actually do is look at the roughness of like dirt or mud or like muddy floor or something like that, and it's not gonna be as reflective as you have it here, unless if it's like a full-on torrent, you know, where there's like massive amount of waters. But looking at the amount of rain here, that didn't happen. And it's also good from like an artistic perspective to try and infuse your frame with a contrast, right? Where you have your cobblestones, which are like nice and shiny, and then in between it you have less rough sand, and it creates like a nice bit of contrast where you can definitely tell the cobblestone from the sand again. Awesome. Also, what could potentially be improved about this is everything's kind of dead on right now in terms of framing on this one, right? So what you could potentially do is, instead of having like, oh, this is just like the one road, you know, like it's a very basic composition in that way. Just try to maybe angle your camera. What way would you rotate it? Like this, where if you think about the composition, let me pick like a better spot to draw. So if you think about the composition, you have your gate here, and it's kind of coming out, and then you probably have like this building. Wait, hold on. The gate a little bit smaller. You know? And then we could be looking at like this building. We're almost standing in the courtyard almost, you know? Like from this building, we're almost standing here and then looking maybe even up a bit more. We're almost standing here and just looking out this way, so that the gate, what I'm trying to do is I want to move this gate to roughly, pick another color for this, to roughly where my rule of third points are. So we have the rule of thirds coming in. Which is a nice way of like framing your composition in like 3 equal parts, down the horizontal and the vertical. Right, so what you, there's even in Unreal, you can toggle your viewport to be a cinematic viewport, and then once you've done that, there's like a little drop down button on the top right where you can set like an overlay, and it has like the rule of thirds built into it. And it's going to give you like a more dynamic feel to your environment already, in a very quick way. Because this shot is not bad, you know, but I think you could do better in elevating it with like the rule of thirds in mind, and like composition a bit more can help you a lot. All right, let's see what else we have here. Maybe even think about like moving, because this is a cool video, you know? It's maybe a bit long. I think it was like 1 minute. Maybe reduce that down to like 30-ish seconds or something like that. Or like have like an intro shot, you know? But maybe moving this. So move video up. Moving this as like the first thing you see could be like a very good way of like immediately like signaling to people like, oh, this is like a full environment kind of thing, instead of like just one shot, you know? Because it has a great opening. So I think this is already like more impactful than the first still, for example. When thinking about the presentation of your portfolio, what I would usually always think about is the sequence of shots. Like usually what they recommend, right? What is usually done is that if you think about your entire sequence, which is like, this is your artwork, right? And then you have number 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. Number 1 needs to be like the most impactful. Because that's gonna convince people to stay. Right? And then you don't necessarily want to like add filler. I would never recommend to add filler in there, but definitely have your strongest first. And then have something strong at the end as well. So let's say that this is like number 10. Right? So you can see that once you're scrolling through the entire thing, you're starting with something that's impactful, and then you're ending with something that's impactful as well, so that it stays in their memory. Obviously, there's stuff that deviates a bit from this, like a breakdown post. You don't really need to keep that in mind. Or if you add breakdowns at the end, right? So let's say that these couple of frames, say 7 to 10, are breakdowns. Not necessary, you know. All right. So we kind of talked about like adding character to the buildings, right? That is like universally applicable to like a lot of the stuff. That's seen in here, right? You could even apply it to like the castle walls, giving them a little bit of like waviness, or especially the silhouette again, right? Like the top, like here, this is a perfect example. Go a bit back. Like everything is kind of simple, and it's kind of, it doesn't have character, right? So we talked about that, like adding character. Then we talked about composition as well a little bit to elevate the stuff that you already have into better shots. I think honestly, like if you do those two things and tweak the textures a little bit as well to introduce some contrast between them all, this is a very strong portfolio piece. And then what I would also recommend, going back to like the overview of your portfolio, is you have this one, right? So this is your main portfolio piece, which is good. I would strongly recommend like merging these two, right? Then deleting this one. Well, not deleting, right? Like, I want you to merge it with like the school one as well. And it's gonna condense it and make it higher quality, right? That's what we're aiming for. And then the last thing that I kind of want to go into, I know that we're not really talking about these two. I think the more recent stuff is definitely more like game art applicable and is showing that you're going in a good way. So I don't necessarily want to spend too much on these. I do want to give like a real quick thing on this one. I saw this and I was like, cool, photogrammetry. You can kind of tell by the thumbnail. And then I was really interested in like, oh, this is a pile of wood. I'm curious how we did like the optimization of it. But this is only like a high poly scan. And that kind of, I don't know, it kind of left me not with a bitter taste. It's like an over exaggeration, but like I kind of wanted more, you know? I was kind of hoping that this would be like a low poly optimized pile of wood, which would show that you can take like photogrammetry you're cleaning up the scan, and then you're thinking about how you can actually make it like game art applicable. But just a small thing that could be relatively easy if you wanted to add it to this and show that you took it from like raw data all the way to game art, because that's what we always want to see. So I think overall, to recap, like a very strong portfolio. Honestly, I know that I saw that I had a lot of feedback and a lot of comments, but I think this is a very strong portfolio. You have a strong case of already knowing what you want to do, and you show that off on your portfolio, and the stuff that's on here is already very strong. You can elevate it really quickly by working on your presentation just a little bit. But honestly, like, all the stuff in here is looking very nice already. Just condense it up and you're good to go. Oh, and as I'm rounding this one off, in the chat, feel free if you have any questions or have any other points that you want to bring up, feel free to just type away in the chat, and I'll add it into the conversation. Because I'm curious what you all think about it too. And please call me out if you think that I'm wrong too, you know? And then as I sip my tea, we're gonna switch on over to Paul's portfolio in just a sec. Before we do that, Paul, I just want to shout out Peter for or Pitar for just putting up your portfolio, you know. I really appreciate it. I hope this all helped. If you have any questions, feel free to just let me know in a DM on Discord. I mean, you know where to find me, you know. If you have any questions or if you have any comments or feedback, feel free to reach out to me so that I can hopefully help you further. Sia saying Peter's portfolio is still rocking. Hell yeah. I'd probably worry slightly that the buildings are all geo and no tileables etc. for game application. That's a good point. Yeah, there's no... That would actually be a good thing. Yeah, like textured in Painter, all of it. That's a concern. Yeah, I see what you mean. There's also no way to really tell, right? So we got an edge at the bottom. That's a very good point. Yeah. That's actually an interesting thing to bring up then, right? I don't think Peter is in the stream anyway. But if it is the case that this is mostly textured in Painter and like not really built in a modular way, where with modular, what Scott is bringing up is that this would be a texture like a tileable texture, right? It's not a unique texture. And then this on top could be like a trim sheet or something like that. And all the wood, that could all be a trim sheet. You know, I'm not going to point all of it out, but like all the wood, that's also a trim sheet. And then there are unique things that you can do, right? So let's say the windows. Let's add them all onto a sheet where I want to put some more attention to like the window frames and make them look like really nice. You can just make like one unique texture that where you can just add like all the windows on it, right? You have like a collection of reusable windows in that case with all the frames and all that stuff added onto it. So yeah, the windows would be an atlas. Roof could even stay geo, but the texture on the tiles would be high resolution. Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. For the roof tiles, I want to keep it geo as well. But you would need to, I wrote a tip about this actually, where what you would do is you would make it tileable. You would make it tileable. You would then turn that into, or you would then use that height, the height texture from that tileable to offset geo in Blender or in Max or in Maya, for example. And that way you can move your texture around, but you're actually using the height information of that texture to displace your geometry. Let me see if I can quickly bring that up. Fuck, I didn't set that up yet. I was looking for something else. Hold on. Let me see. Blog. I am organized, I swear. Yeah. All right, let's have a look here. So, modeling, height map to geometry. What is it? Yeah. So in this one, you can actually see that I'm using like a height map here to displace the geometry in Blender with like a displacement modifier. And I can then optimize that geometry to make it really low poly again. But if I want to do a change to it, I could just feed it like a different height map, or I could change the height map or something like that. And that gives me, like after optimization, like a really detailed looking roof right here. That's one of the things that you could apply. Don't want to get deviated too much though. But thanks for bringing that up, Scott. So definitely, like, if this is all uniquely textured, this is something that would be brought up in an interview, by the way. This is a very good example of something that, if we're unsure about something, like, we would just bring that up in an interview and say, like, okay, tell me how you built the modules, right? Or, like, how you built the houses. And if it turns out that you just textured them all uniquely, that would be a big red flag, because that's not how it's done. Usually we break them up into like either modular pieces where we can reuse the same pieces over and over, so that the more we use it, it becomes more optimized, right? But yeah, like the other way is like Scott was saying, tileable textures, right? Tileable textures and trim sheets, there's all sort of ways. So that would be one thing to look at. Got a couple of questions here. Trezzy, don't texture everything in Painter. Got it. Unique stuff, definitely, right? And there's still stuff like the trim sheet that I mentioned. You would still texture that in Painter. It's just you don't usually take a building that is pretty big and just like texture that one-to-one because then to realistically get the texel density that you need, the texel density is, just as a side note, texel density is what controls how high resolution the textures are going to be on your assets, right? And usually there's a value set across the whole scene. So let's say my texel density is 2K, which is like a 2K texture for a 1 meter piece. So 2K by 1 meter. That means that if I want to texture a building that is like, let's say, 10 meters tall, you can see the issue, right? Because then I would need like 10 times that 2K. And that's unfeasible. Especially if you're doing it all unique. Because then we're talking about like a, what is it, like a 20K texture or something like that. Well, 10 times, well, it's probably less than that. All I'm saying is that usually buildings can't be uniquely textured, right? So keep that in mind. There's other ways to do that with modular workflows. And yes, thanks, Mateus. Yeah, you can get this PDF on the Patreon, like Scott is saying. Or you can buy it separately if you don't want like Patreon stuff happening. You could buy it on beyondextend.com as well. Oh, Scott has me covered. Thanks, man. All right. Let's now it's for real, Paul. The PDF ends on 2020. Does it? I thought I updated that to 2021. Wait. Hold on. Let me make a note of that. Because that's an issue if so. Yeah, Patreon is definitely like the best way to get the most up-to-date version of it, because I do like a monthly update of it. Anyway, let's move on to Paul. Oh no, wait, Cici, you had a question. So, how many materials close together is a good balance? More or less for the game engine? That's a good question. Usually, the amount of materials doesn't necessarily matter. It's more how you use them, right? Because you could have like, let's say a building made out of, let's say 20 materials. But if the entire city uses those 20 materials, then you're being very optimized. However, if you're using 20 materials on one building, and then 20 materials on another one, and then 20 materials on another one, you can see that scales, that rapidly becomes like a different thing, right? So there's examples of like I mean, I don't have an example that I can bring up right now, but you can put a lot of materials on like one asset if you wanted to, and if the asset like needs it. Okay. Next up, Paul. Let's do this, buddy. You've been waiting around. So, same thing. Let's start with first impressions. Yeah, same thing here. You got your 3D environment artist banner here, right? I would say maybe update this one. It feels, I'm going to get into it a little bit more, but yeah, it's a good looking banner, but it feels like it's time for an update, you know. And then we go into like your title versus your portfolio. So what I can see here looks like it's all projects, right? Which require environments, so nothing wrong with that. It's looking good. And then Let's dive into the thumbnails a little bit. The one that jumps out to me the most, or like I'm the most interested in, is actually this one. The reason why is it has a nice amount of contrast, you know? Like we have like the orange going in here, we have like the green here. There's like some interesting stuff going on with these assets. It feels like a more balanced picture and like the most interesting picture that's currently on your portfolio. The only thing, I mean, it's kind of weirdly cropped here, is like the little logo from the game itself. Possibly for the thumbnail, I would just get rid of like the bottom section and just give it all the space it needs by itself. Thumbnails are important, you know? Like that's how you get people into the things that you want them to see. Also, the other reason why I don't really like some of the other thumbnails is, for example, the colors on this one, they're too similar. You know, like it feels like a very busy and noisy picture. And I think the same can potentially be applied to these two, right? Where the colors are very similar, like it's very muddy, like there's almost like a haze on the thumbnail itself. It feels like I'm wearing like Vaseline goggles. I think I used this way of saying it before, but I don't know. It feels like I'm looking at a blurred picture, you know, like nothing's really crisp on this. That's my first gut feeling. All right, I'm just going to start out with the latest one here. So let's have a look. Okay, so this is like an entire city. Interesting. Some fruits, got a market, they got like a coffee stand, got a duplicate picture. Wait, is that a duplicate? Okay. Interesting. Paul, we got a duplicate. You can kind of see what I did, right? Like, I clicked on it. This isn't auto-playing, so I'm lazy, and a lot of what are they called again? Recruiters, or like people that are in charge of like recruiting you, or like are the first line of like getting in contact. They honestly won't bother to click on this. Like usually YouTube links that mean that they're pretty long, and if you're doing like a bunch of people at one day, usually I don't tend to click on this. Typically that's like 3 minutes. Imagine if you have to do that for like 100 people, like throughout the day, you're not gonna do that. So what I would say with a video is like keep it like super concise if you can, or just let the images do the talking, you know. I'm just kind of skimming through it, you know. This is like a whole freaking city. Okay. There's there's no description. What is this for? Tell me something. I mean, you don't have to do it now, but like, I mean, in a way of like, this is your art, you know? I want to get to know it. Like, there's nothing here. You can tell me a story too, if you wanted to, you know? Like, it's a year 2900, and like, people living in blah, 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 and You can kind of make up a story too. It doesn't always have to be like, oh, most of it was made in Unreal, blah blah blah. You can tell something with it too. There is a lot going on here, Paul. I'm gonna be honest. I think the main issue that I'm seeing here is just scale, right? And I think we even talked about that before I did like the portfolio review that I'm doing now. Just too much. Like, it is a lot. You're trying to do like everything by yourself. Paul is asking, do I need to get pro to upload videos or something? If you do, honestly, I would just leave the video out of it. I can understand if you don't wanna pay for the subscription, right? But if then just leave the video out of it, honestly. It is like a cherry on top, you know, like I said, like in a lot of cases, like if the video isn't like super short anyway, like a lot of people are just gonna scroll past it regardless. So to me, it's kind of hit or miss. I would say honestly that they're not important for recruitment. And then Scott is saying that he spoke to Paul a while ago, and the smaller scope would show off his skills so much better. 100% agree. 100% agree. Because what this stuff also shows me, right? What this art piece also shows me. Let me make sure that I look at some of the dates really quickly, so that I'm sure that I got the latest thing, right? Okay, it seems like we got the latest thing, and like a lot of it came like really quickly after each other. So what that means to me is that you never really took the time to focus on like the fundamentals, right? Like a lot of it, like a lot of the assets are there, like the whole world, and like I can tell what it is, right? Like I can sort of tell what it is, like especially like this is a fruit vendor, and then you have like a little bar area, like all the elements are there. I think they're all there in like a very rudimentary term, you know, like because you want to build at such a scale, you don't necessarily take the time to really put in the work on like the smaller stuff that really needs to be there. And that also brings me to you're taking a lot of shortcuts with this, no doubt, right? Like a lot of this stuff that I have on screen right now, it doesn't feel well constructed from like a game art perspective, right? Like I can see some weird blurriness happening here, which indicates that something went wrong with the baking. And it's right here, you know. The statue here doesn't look well constructed. Like the same thing for like the houses, question mark. You know, I don't want to really go into this too deep, but like you can tell by just looking at it that you need to take a step back and like focus on the foundations and the fundamentals of things. And like Scott's saying, taking that step back allows you to focus on something small, but like really focus on the quality again. Like I said in the previous portfolio, that's what you want to show off, you know? It's not about the scale or the size of things, it's about the quality. Like the thing that I always say to people is that scope comes from putting more people on the project. You know, like Assassin's Creed isn't built by like a handful of people. It gets made by a team of like thousands of people, because that's what the scale demands. So you kind of have to think about that in the same way. Don't try to, I know what it is, you know, I'm building a massive scene. But I took like a lot of steps in between to get to that point where I can quote unquote comfortably do it. And even then it's taking me like a long ass time to build it, right? So add on top of it that you're looking for a job. You kind of want to move towards something that gives you like better output for your time spent, which is smaller stuff in this case. It's all a long-winded say of like scoping down and focusing on the quality. Because like from a world building perspective, you know, like there is something here, you know, it's something that we haven't seen. So there is something really cool going on with this. What I want to see is that it looks more polished than it does currently. And that takes time. So, okay, let's have a look at another one. Let's see, solo project, here are the renders of my world within Unreal Engine 5. I designed this from scratch 12 weeks ago and encountered many challenges but persevered through it. That's awesome. Here are my final renders so far. Looking to create a similar related world next year. Oh, okay. Got some foliage going on as well. The foliage looks good. I guess, I mean, I'm not gonna repeat myself too much on this, right? But it's also kind of what we talked about before in the previous portfolio, is that if you want to make giant stuff like this, like what I would do here is have, trying to see, right? So this is a pattern, this is a pattern, and then these are a pattern. These are repeating. So I'm guessing that these are all unique, right? So, well, not all unique, but that this is like one asset that's uniquely textured and then just repeated like this amount of times. Whereas probably the more optimal way to do it is that you have the base rock that is just textured with a tileable, right? So you got a tileable texture, got a tileable texture on it. Because of the scale of this, I mean, it's hard to gauge, but I guess let's say like a human is this size roughly, then this is going to be massive, right? So you can't really dedicate like a unique map to it. So you need to go for like a tileable texture plus maybe a detail texture, you know? And then how you can make it look good is potentially adding some vertex paint to it for the moss. This is gonna allow you to do is make it all unique, right? So you have like this one, you can paint like a lot of the moss on this side, but then on this one might be more on the back side, you know? And you can also just make it like a different asset because it's just a tileable texture with like a detail normal on top of it. So you can do a lot there, you know, with relatively simple stuff to set up. And then the lines on top of it, they could just be like a unique mesh that sits, or like an additional mesh that kind of hugs the rock mesh on top of it. So that would be, yeah, just like cut out. It's gonna be relatively expensive, you know, but it's also big. So the amount of geo that you're gonna be spending on this is very doable. Plus, you can make them unique again, right? Breath of the Wild vibes for those runes on the stones. Hell yeah! So I haven't played any Zelda game, right? So I'm just saying hell yeah and agreeing because I know nothing about it. And this is cool though. Like, I like the setup, you know? Like the setup itself is intriguing. Just what I'm really trying to say is that, yeah, the foundations, you know, like the game art pipelines, they need to be there. And from that point on, like, you're just gonna be building up and up and up. And then if you tweak your lighting, if you tweak your composition, you're gonna be in a very good position, Paul. This is nice, you know? Like with this frame, you can do a lot. Where you can add like a little dirt road, you know? Dirt road going into it. Maybe this is a very, very artificially made rock, right? So you kind of need to do some work to like properly embed that into the floor. Like you're already kind of doing here, right? So you have like the big shapes and then you have smaller shapes, and then I would expect like even smaller shapes to be happening here. But this is cool, you know? There's something glowing behind here. Like, what the hell is that? And if you then have like a path that leads you straight into it for like visual guidance, maybe even block some stuff here, you know? Just make sure that they don't look at the background too much and everything is kind of funneled into like this main entrance here. Same for this. Maybe have some more rocks. Thanks, Scott. Is that going in my Zelda fund now? Oh, appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, you see, with like a couple of quick fixes, right? Because the foundations that you build are actually interesting to work with. And then it's all about like just guiding people into that frame, you know? Like, and instead of having a tree maybe here, maybe have like another bigger rock over here or something like that, you know? Something to just like block people from looking at that side. Then you have something very nice going on here. And that's all to say, like, there's ways to do this, you know? I think what I really wanted to see, just, yeah, like a really cool item, right? Because the ideas are there, man. Like, this is cool, you know? I think this is actually, in terms of style, this is probably the most interesting one. That's why I was so drawn to it too. It almost has like a kind of Borderlands-y kind of feel to it, you know? That's cool. When is this? From posting a year ago. Yeah, even like comparing this to your more recent work, like you're already making progress, you know? Gotta keep at it, man. Maybe, because I know the scene that you're currently working on, right? Maybe it's even worth, like, not doing the scene, but starting with, like, a console, like a research desk or something like that. And try to make that, like, your benchmark piece for your art. Posted 10 months ago. It's cool. So, yeah, as a recap, I mean, most of it will just be like going back to the core, you know, going back to the foundations, and try to, after you're doing that, like really try to focus a lot of your attention to lighting and presenting your work. Like going into composition as well. There's a lot that you can gain by just really focusing on those compositions, making them really stand out. And yeah, you're gonna be solid there, man. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna take a while, but you gotta build up to it like relatively slowly, you know? And you're gonna get there, no doubt. Got the passion for it. I can tell whenever we talk. So just keep going at it, make it smaller, and push that quality, buddy. Awesome. Is there anything anyone else wants to add? Or Paul, since you're here, like, do you have any questions? Sure to keep you all posted and really appreciate the feedback. Thank you again. Yeah, no worries, Paul. I mean, still feel free to post any questions you have in the chat, right? Or if not now, oh, can you explain more about the geo, if that's okay? I don't understand what it is. I don't fully understand what it is. Oh, wait, the geometry on the Breath of the Wild rocks, right? Is that what you're referring to? Oh, just the word geo itself. Oh, sorry, geometry. I'm so sorry. That's my my old habits kicking in, just like shorting that up. Yeah, so geo stands for geometry. So in reference to this, you would basically have like two separate bits of geometry, right? Or well, two groups of geometry. One would be the rock itself, and then two would be the lines on top of it. Right? So they would actually be separate groups of geometry that you overlay on top of each other. It can be the same asset, but they can also be separate groups. No, that's good. Thanks for asking. I mean, it's not a stupid question. I should just use geometry instead of geo. Yeah, and as Scott's saying, like, feel free to do the same with me, right? Like, if you have any questions after this, feel free to just hit me up. And we can discuss it as well. All right. Again, thank you so much, Paul, for putting this up there. I really appreciate you being, vulnerable. You know, like it takes some courage to put your portfolio up and like sharing it with everyone for hopefully some helpful feedback. So yeah, I really appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much for putting it up. And then lastly, we have Kiriakos. So, same thing as always. Let's start with first impressions. We've already actually looked at this one, but it wasn't in like a portfolio review. It was for Work in Progress Wednesday. So, I mean, just to give you like a quick overview of what that is, like Work in Progress Wednesday is where we as a community get together and have like a feedback event where everyone can just join in. You know, you can put your work up. You can put your work up and everyone joins for a chat on Wednesday evening, and we just talk about feedback and give some overpaints to each other, basically. But yeah, during that we talked about this latest work for his Androidica that he made. Off topic, you will get in on the Inktober challenge, maybe with the Discord community. No? Question mark? It could be interesting. So we have two people that kind of organize smaller community challenges. So maybe, since Sia is in the chat, maybe that would be an interesting idea. Yes, exactly. She's already on the ball. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. So, first impressions here. A lot of cool work. Got some materials, got some assets, got some environments. It's all good. A lot of interesting looking stuff as well. Like, it's very varied, you know? It goes from like organic looking stuff to more hard surface looking stuff. Like this battle rifle, for example, to like very organic looking temple here. That's always good to show off that you can do variety, right? Like a lot of people, there's almost two camps, you know, and I'm probably switching sides like occasionally too. But like there's a camp of like you need to specialize, like highly specialize, or like be like very generalistic, right? But I don't think like it's bad to show off that you can do like a lot of varied stuff. And that's what we're seeing here. Cool stuff. First and for all. Yeah, the title versus the portfolio. So 3D environment artist / prop artist. That's good. That's basically the title that I had too. Even though I didn't really do any props in the last couple of years, but it's awesome. It shows, yeah, both environments and props. That's cool. I would say let's have a look at the thumbnails here really quick. You're trying to set yourself apart by having these black borders around the thumbnail, right? Let's see. There's always like some space that is just... Oh, no. There's always some space that is just empty on these thumbnails. And I see what you're trying to do there. You're trying to set yourself apart a little bit, right? But I don't think it's the best of the idea. Like a thumbnail should ideally... well, in my opinion, like a thumbnail should be at least like fully utilized, right? the reason why I say that is like you're just throwing space away in a thumbnail. And it's not really doing anything to make you stand out. It's just gonna make you look weird compared to the wall of art that you're gonna be in, right? Because I think if you look at a wall of art, like a black space doesn't really say anything. Yeah, I don't know. Like it could be confused for someone else's work too, right? So maybe try to think about something else to do with your thumbnails. I honestly don't mind some of the graphical approaches here. Maybe the more abstract ones, they do a better job. Not sure about this one, you know? Again, you want to show off the work that you did, right? And then putting like a graphic behind it, it's distracting from it. Like I can't really see the prop anymore. Well, I can still see it, but like it's confusing to me, like where the prop ends and like I'm losing track of the silhouette, right? So yeah, I would say like utilize them fully. And if you want to go with something graphical, try to do something more abstract. Like this. I don't think, maybe even like lower the opacity on this one. I don't think that's like a bad idea, honestly. Doing something graphical like that. It just needs to be the right kind of graphic, you know. Because I mean, graphic design is like a whole thing by itself, so. Scott's also saying maybe even zooming in on some of the environment art stuff instead of showing the full scene. Yeah, I agree. So let's explore that a little bit, right? So let's look at this King's Corner. Can you imagine, like, I'm going with my gut here, right? But I'm trying to see what could be like an interesting frame here. Because you kind of got some storytelling going on with the blood, and like you have, is that like a freaking hand? Don't have, is that a freaking hand in it? Interesting. But like I agree with what Scott's saying, right? And the reason why I picked this one is because he can do something pretty interesting with the framing here. You could almost say like, oh. Something like this, right? The reason why I picked this is because you have like a really nice asset. Like I really like the rug. So the rug is freaking awesome. It creates like it's a very like eye-catching thing as well, right? So that's why I picked the rug out of like most of the assets here. And then because you got your storytelling element here, people are gonna be like, what the hell happened here, right? You see that on YouTube all the time. Like they intrigue you with a lot of stuff, right? And it's not clickbait if they answer that question. So you're kind of trying to do it yourself, but like in a very visual way here. So you can have like a really nice pop of color, and then you notice the blood and you're like, oh shit, something happened there. And then once you click on it, you open up with like, whoa, it's an entire scene. That's freaking amazing, you know? You kind of wow the people looking at it by just being like, oh shit, I thought this was like a small kind of diorama, but it's actually like a pretty big scene. That's freaking awesome. So yeah, let's have a look. The rug is such a nice element in the scene. The main, when was this made? 2 years ago. Okay. The reason why I always look at the dates is because I know the droidica, right? And I know that you did such a good job of like all the scales and proportions. So I'm constantly trying to keep in mind what I'm going to say next. Because the thing that I wanted to point out, I think there was like a very obvious thing right here, is you gotta look at the proportions of your scene, right? Where you have like a thick, it's almost like a comedically thick looking door. I know that these wooden doors are thick, but then if you really want to emphasize that they're like very sturdy, you have to do the same thing on the frame as well, right? The frame has to be really thick to emphasize the same thing. Plus, if we're focusing on details, you would have brickwork or like stonework kind of following the same shape. But the reason why I wanted to point at this door is that you have this proportion, and then you also have like a little what do they call it here? Like a ceiling light. Candelabra? I don't know. There's a specific word for it. But like, this feels too small. Right? And like, normally they're like really majestic centerpieces of like a large room. And that's also another point. Oh, chandelier. Exactly. Thanks, Kiriakos. And that's also, this chandelier is actually hinting at something that's wrong with the room, and that it's very, very cramped, you know? And this doesn't feel like it's a poor establishment by any reason, right? Also looking at the space between the door, like the frame, and like the ceiling, you would have to move that up anyway, because I can't even like complete the circle of stones that's supposed to go there. So just keeping that in mind, right? Like, proportions are very important. And I think honestly that's the main thing that struck me about this scene, is that there's a lot of it is just the ceiling that's too low. Like, there's a weird proportions happening. Because you can kind of, like, normally we have like mannequins around, right? Like when we're building environments, like we usually pick up like a lot of mannequins, and then once we place down a mannequin, we immediately see like, oh, what's happening with these stairs? Like, I can't even like place my foot on that. So that would be like a recommendation for people wondering what you can do about it. Also, you can extrapolate scales from items that we know by a day-to-day basis, right? So this chair, you can kind of imagine that, okay, like I'm currently sitting on my desk chair, like my if I'm sitting up straight and like my legs are in like a 90-degree corner, like I know that these stairs are going to be too small, right, for my feet. So you can kind of pick from like your daily life and like imagine like me sitting on this chair, like thinking about like how the proportions between my legs and my feet work, to like extrapolate like different scales from like different daily life things. Yeah, other than that, like, it's a very interesting scene though. Freaking love the rug, man. I can't get over it. So good. Such a good focal piece. The droidica, I'm just gonna look at it because I kind of want to show it off to people, you know, like in terms of proportions, freaking awesome, you know. Obviously it's a little bit different because you have you have reference material for this. And I'm not saying that as like a way to make it sound like you had an easier time, right? Because that's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm just trying to highlight like the learnings that you had. The learnings that you had from some of the older works compared to this one. I have updated it a bit. Yeah, this is some good stuff. I like the breakdowns as well. I think I discussed this during like a work in progress Wednesday as well. That I like the proportions, like can't really say anything about like the low poly, you know. Very clean, very optimized. Like maybe, I mean, I'm nitpicking at that point, right? But like maybe some of the smaller stuff can definitely be optimized. Because you always want to kind of keep consistency in mind, right? Whereas the poly count on some of these things is getting very dense, you know? Whereas you have this space between edges here. This would almost be like just, I don't know, like a quad, you know? No one's gonna see that. But yeah, don't want to spend too much talking here. I haven't seen all of this, so let's have a look. Oh man, what are all these spotlights doing here? I don't know, that's just caught my eye all of a sudden. Like... Those are a lot of spotlights. This is a project that I did, so I get practice trim sheets by sculpting the high poly in ZBrush and baking them into Simpsons Painter. Yep, that's cool. So these pillars are all trim sheets then, I'm assuming. That's probably on the same trim sheet. Got all these nice details here, that's cool. Yeah, man, that's awesome. Let's see. So, improve my 3D sculpting skills. Moreover, I wanted to expand my knowledge of Lumen. Spotlights are the souls. Valhalla. This is cool. I like these kind of projects, you know? They're very focused, like they're very driven by like, hey, look, I'm thinking I'm missing this skill or I don't know what this workflow is about. So I'm just gonna make like a really small condensed scene about it. Oh, the pillars are sculpted. Okay. Oh, okay. So you're combining the two then. So the interior parts, they're trim sheet, right? Because we can see this pattern right here. Right, so those are trim sheet parts. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. It's a cool combination of the two, you know? I mean, very, very interesting combination of techniques. And that's also a thing, right? If you want to achieve scope and scale, this is the way to go too, you know? You don't think about like, oh, how do I create everything unique? But it's like, how can I make the most of like the minimal amount of time spent? Trim sheets, tileable textures, like reusing like modular sections here. I'm assuming that you just recolored this brickwork in Unreal, right? So you have this beige and then this black is basically the same texture set. Yeah, that's cool. Oh wait, we see the trim here. That might actually be worth blowing up a little bit. So I don't know how you're gonna present it, right? But I don't want to say too much. Like, it would be nice to at least have a look at the trim sheet, because I can kind of get an idea, but it's kind of far away. So like enlarging the trim sheet, that could definitely help. That's cool though. That's a good piece. I like how condensed it is, you know? The final presentation was also pretty good. With it's a pretty basic composition, you know, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. I use it all the time too, you know, just have your focal point. Like, again, like roughly here on this line, you know, like it kind of works. And then you have like a path leading to it. Got some leading lines, got this leading line here. You're blocking people from like going further back with the trees. It's just, yeah. Clean. Effective, you know. Oh, and then obviously you got the God rays. You mean presented as a different render in Marmoset? Oh, that's for the trim sheet. No, not really. The presentation can definitely be improved here, right? Because, I mean, you're kind of showing off, but you're kind of leaving it at the distance. So you can definitely improve upon, especially the basic material that you're using at the bottom, if we're talking about presentation anyway. But for the trim sheet, let's see. So if this is your page, right? I would... Let's see. Either have like a space for your trim sheet here, and then have like a presentation for like, oh, these are some of the assets that I made with it, you know? So you have like the big pillar, and then you have like the smaller pillar next to it. Just to showcase like how, like, I can easily tell that these two assets are created with this sheet then, and I can also like dissect all the different things that you've done with it, you know? Just in like an easy to read format. Because honestly, looking at this presentation, I don't really care about the trees. They're not that well presented anyway. So if you really want to show off the trees, I would probably put them on like a separate image and present them really well, and just make them like, hey, look, this is a foliage that I made, you know? As like a separate image. So you would have like two breakdown images. Number one is about your trims, and then number two is like foliage, right? Trims plus assets, something like that. Yeah. Just try to take more time with presenting some of this stuff. It's not because it's just like a... How would I say it? Like, it's not because it's like just, oh, it's a breakdown that it needs to be boring, right? You can make it like very exciting too. Let me see if I can find like a good example really quick. Yeah, I mean, I got an example here from Ben Keeling. This is also just foliage, right? But it's just clean, Doesn't take too much time, but it's very well presented, you know? It's well lit. You can kind of see what's happening. You don't have to do all of this. Like, it can just be like this one for your foliage, for example. Let's have a look at some of the props. This is from a year ago. Looks quite good, you know. I think honestly, like the main thing here is again the presentation, right? Because the gun itself looks really nice. If you wanted to become like a weapons artist, like there is definitely stuff that you can point out, right? Like, I think that's also like a critique that I would give to the Droideka. Very generic, like, application of wear and tear. If you wanna improve like the feel of like a gun or like a mech or something like that, it needs to be very logical, you know? Like, it needs to be stuff that's from use instead of, like, you can almost kind of see that it has like a tileable across of it, where that wouldn't be the case, right? Like, it would be condensed in certain areas and then non-apparent in like other areas because you never like bump into it or you never touch it in any way. And that same can also be applied to the Droideka as well. Let's see, we're running into 2 hours at the moment. So I'm gonna pick up one of these materials. I'll take this one. This is a material that I made based on studies on how bricks of Mayan temples are. Nice. Substance designer. That's cool. I'm trying to think, right? Like, it's a decent material, honestly. Like, some of the stuff that I can tell from just looking at it, I would expect like less height variations where it's actually been affected by the moss, right? So where you have like stronger patches of moss, I would actually expect the moss to be like overtaking like a lot of the rock. And especially where you can see like some of these things, right? Where you can see like the stretching of the height map a little bit. I mean, it's very difficult to see. You need to kind of soften that up just a little bit. But what I'm always curious for with textures is how they're applied in the environment. So, because I mean, I know that this is a plane, right? So it doesn't really show off anything. You know, I wanna see how you apply it in like an actual game situation where you're actually gonna be using it. And how big the tiling is, right? Or like how much you're gonna tile it, because I'm just looking at this. This area right here, it's gonna be very apparent in tiling, right? Like it's like a tiling indicator almost. So you need to be very careful with those areas. Check it out in the Temple of Nature scenes. Have a look. But I can't really, right? We're not really getting up close to this anyway. It is cool though. The breakdown with like the individual bricks, that always works. Raj is saying don't forget 21:9 for like aspect ratio. Just yeah, whenever cinematic renders always look better. Yeah, overall very interesting portfolio. I would say the biggest one is presentation, you know, like really taking time to make beautiful thumbnails, making stuff that stands out. Also being more crude with the way that you select your work too could be very beneficial. Because you've grown a lot, you know, you've been doing a lot of stuff. And at a certain point, you have to decide when certain stuff is not up to par with your portfolio anymore, right? So at some point, you have to decide, like, hey, is this still like up to par, or do you think that you can show off better? Again, it's quality over quantity, right? So a lot of gains can be made with just presentation. Like Roger said, like it's very specific, right? But like the aspect ratio of your screen or like your renders can help a lot. Adding depth of field, like doing a little bit of color correction. Really thinking about the presentation, because usually we spend so much time working on it that by the time that we actually need to present our stuff, we're like, kind of done with it, you know? But that's the most important part, because it can make or break your portfolio. So definitely have a look at the presentation of things, thumbnails, and just the renders. Like really try to condense some of it as well. And Raj can provide assistance. I think provide assistance means that he will just force 21:9 down your throat, even if you don't like it. But I appreciate it, Raj, nonetheless. I'll report. All right. Thank you so much, Kiriakos. I appreciate you putting this up for portfolio review. I feel like this is a pretty long session, 2 hours. I always underestimate these. I think next time I'll need to just do 2 and really take my time. I felt like kind of rushed in like the last bit, you know? But anyway, I appreciate it, Kiriakos. Thank you so much for putting up your portfolio. I would love to improve more on presenting my scenes. Hell yeah. Yeah, you can always ask us for advice in the Discord channel too, right? If you're working on a current scene. We're always happy to help. All right. No worries, Kiriakos. Happy to help. Hi, Lowlead. How are you doing? We are just coming to the end of our stream, though, because we just did 3 portfolio reviews, so... Oh, thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate it. I mean, I really do hope it helps, you know? Like, and... Like I'm saying, tomorrow's Work in Progress Wednesday. We can chat about it more in depth as well then. But I'm really excited to see you make like smaller stuff as well. It's gonna be super helpful. All right. Do we have any more questions coming from the chat? Like, if you have any questions about like the portfolios or some of the stuff that we discussed today, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll read them out. While I just hydrate. How often do you do these? Once a month. I think, or I hope, maybe a little bit of both, you know. I'm assuming that if we get more people to do them, then I might do them more often. But for now, like just at the rate of people just trying to ask for portfolio reviews, I think once a month is good. Because else we're running out of people, you know? Or maybe we should make it public. What do you think, Raj? What are you thinking? Make it public. I'll need to see how we do that. I don't think it's a bad idea. Maybe we can set something up on the website where people can apply for a portfolio review, so that at least we can get some structure into it. Hey, Scott! Thanks so much for putting it out there. Just want to give a shout out at all the hard work we're doing at BeyondExtend.com. So if you're interested, you can check out the link that Scott has just posted there. Like, that's our website. And yeah, you can get access to like the awesome PDF that we brought up like before. It has over 200 tips that I wrote over the last over the last 4 to 5 years. God damn it. It's been a while. But yeah, you can press join underneath this video or sub to the Discord access tier on Patreon or YouTube. So thanks so much for being here. I'm gonna check out as well. Just gonna chill out a little bit in the Discord. So maybe I'll see you there. And yeah, just thanks everyone for being here. Talk to you soon. Bye.